excited to bring you an awesome hour and a half of information so that you can be empowered as voters as we go forward with this election season. As we're getting started, though, we would like to begin by going around and just saying our name. And today, these are your name again.
It's Marcus.
Yes, your name, and if you were a fruit, what would you be? We like to eliminate where you work and all that stuff. That's for networking. So when we have a networking time for you getting in, feel free to share that information. But just you can stand up, give us your name and the fruit you'd like to be. We're going to start that back corner right there. That takes you for you to chip in your mouth.
My name is Fabiola. And it's what if I was a fruit?
If you were a fruit, what would you be?
I would want to be maybe pineapple because it's tropical and I like to be in a tropical environment.
That's good.
Wow.
I'm LaQuinty, and if I were a fruit, of course I'd be a watermelon.
Oh, me?
Yes.
My name is Marcus, and if I was a fruit, I'd be a passion fruit.
My name is Melisha. I would just say a mango because that's my favorite.
My name is David. If I was a fruit, I'd be a banana.
I knew you were going to say that too.
My name is Tiana. If I were a fruit, I'd be a raspberry.
I'm Jonathan. If I was a fruit, I'd be a grapefruit, ruby red grapefruit.
Good evening, my name is Crystal Fox. I'd be a grape because.
Hi, I'm Michaela, and if I were a fruit, I'd be a strawberry because I like strawberries.
My name is King. If I was type of fruit, I'll just say lemon because I like lemonade.
One thing, if I could be a fruit, I'd be a tomato because it's the only one that
My name is Tommy, and if I could be a fruit, it would have to be an orange, just because oranges are from Florida, and who doesn't like going to Florida?
Watermelon. Got two watermelons. Awesome.
My name is Lisa, and I'd be an apple.
My name is Dewan Lamont Hayes. I'd be a yellow apple.
Let's see. So as we're going to hear you and go across the panel, you're going to go down.
Okay. I'm Eric Williams, and I would be a peach. I have 2 peach trees in my backyard. They are delicious.
Vanessa Ward, I'd be a raisin, chocolate covered especially.
Kimura Snipe and probably pineapple.
Spencer Danner, she cheated, she took mine. But pineapples as well.
Mike Hughes, I guess we all have something in common. I'll be a pineapple, tough exterior, sweet on the inside.
Michael Young. I don't know how to call 3 pineapples and all that, but I would be a pomegranate because it's healthy and it's flavor.
Go right here in the front.
Stand up. Say your name.
My name is Jaden Young. I would be orange because it's my favorite color.
All right.
Good job.
My name's Luis. If I could be a fruit, I'd be a coconut.
Fruteaco. If I was a fruit, I'd be a guava.
My name's Cecilia. If I were a fruit, I'd be a peach. I'm from Georgia.
My name is Ndu, and if I was a fruit, I would also be a guava. My name is Brittany. If I was a fruit, I would be a pineapple. My name is Shelly Henderson. If I were to be a fruit, I'd choose raspberries because some random Chicago boy dedicated this rap by Big Boy to me. And I didn't know what it was, and then I was listening, and I was like, oh, no. So now I'm listening, don't ask me questions.
My name's Kayla. I think if I was a fruit, I would be a durian because they're awkward. I don't know.
My name is Lindsay, and I would be a clementine.
I'm Ashley. If I had to pick a fruit, so I would have picked pineapple, but there's a lot of pineapples in here apparently. So I'm going to pick a tomato because a lot of people don't know tomatoes are actually fruits, and there's a lot of things people don't know about me.
And I am Tinia Irwin from Comia. I was going to congregate. I'm going to say kiwi because I seem ugly on the outside, but inside actually looks really And guys know I'm Melinda, and I'm going to go with watermelon as well because that is my favorite. It's the best out there. So thank you guys so much for indulging us with our fruit icebreaker. Although we are all different and chose various things, although some people really like pineapple, I think we would make a great salad. So thank you guys for coming together on that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get started with our panel, and our moderator is Tinia tonight. And I will let her take it away.
Testing. I actually hate microphones because my voice is deep, so if you are recording, make sure you put a disclaimer at the bottom that I am female. But again, my name is Tinia Irwin. Feel free to call me Nia. I am very informal. I wear flats. And so knowing that, I hope you guys have a great sense of humor. Yes, okay. If not, I'm so sorry. But we're going to get started. I didn't want to introduce you because I don't think that I could do it well enough. So I will definitely pass this mic around. Don't feel pressure, wink, wink, to answer every question, wink, wink. But definitely just answer, I guess, as you all see fit. For the audience, we're going to ask a few general questions. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to raise your hand. I do have 4 eyes. I will see you and call on you and give you a mic, okay? God bless you. Eric, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Eric Williams, and I'm currently a candidate for the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors in Subdivision 6. That's a new subdivision. OPPD formerly had metro-wide elections up until 2012. In 2013, the metro area was divided down, and so this is the first time Subdivision 6 is going to have a specific election for a board member to represent the north and east part of Omaha and Douglas County. That's roughly east of 50th Street in Dundee, east of 60th Street in Benson, east of 72nd Street when you get a little further west, and then all the way to the river and all the way up to the county line. So it's a pretty large area. That area does include the North Omaha power plant, so there are some real specific issues that are related to residents in Subdivision 6 that might not be reflected by board members from other areas. Additionally, there are disproportionately more shutoffs in Subdivision 6 than there are in other places. There are more people who would benefit from energy efficiency improvements in their older homes. And so I think there's a lot of issues that are specifically important in Subdivision 6. And my experience with energy policy over the last 10 years, I think makes me a good candidate to be on the board to represent our area, the northeast part of Omaha. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa Ward, and I am running for the office of Governor of Nebraska. I will be the first African-American woman who ever attempted to run for this office for the state of Nebraska. I'm excited about that in itself. Thank you for that down there. But at the same time, I feel called, literally called to this office because there's such a disconnect and such a dissatisfaction that's running rampant across our country concerning our government. And I was raised that if you are dissatisfied or you feel like something's not working, step up, do something. So I am a pioneer, so to speak, that's blazing the trail, especially for this meeting. My young professionals, I'm hoping that as I blaze the trail, it's going to inspire you to get ready. The Democratic Party does not have a bench. We are not preparing the next generation to take it to the top. I have a problem with that. So there'll be a lot of things that I bring to the table, but one of the main things I bring is the ability to pull people together, regardless of race, demographic, educational biases, and anything else, liberal to the most stubbornest, unwilling to yield person ever. I've proven it. I've proven it for 20 years that I can get it done. So I'm excited about this opportunity and hoping to inspire you to get ready for what you can do for your country and your state.
Good evening. My name is Kimara Snipe. I am running for OPS Board, Subdistrict 8, and that is really the extreme southern part of Douglas County, and it also stretches into Sarpy County. It is the home of Bryan High School, where I graduated from. Go Bears. Yes. We made it to state, I'm just saying. Anyway, so I'm running for OPS Board. Before that, though, I am really just the proud president of my neighborhood association, Highland South Indian Hill, which is also in South Omaha. I'm a neighborhoods person, a community person. I'm a mother of a 17-year-old. I'm also the co-director of a drill team in South Omaha. I've gone into OPS and done leadership development. Really, at the end of the day, I'm just someone who is a parent, who is a citizen, who chooses to act as opposed to just sitting back and fussing and complaining and I won't say bad words, that sort of thing. So that's my foundation. My foundation is neighborhoods. My foundation is, of course, as well church. I'm very, very active where I attend church at Allen Chapel AME in South Omaha as well. So that is really just who I am as a person.
Good evening. My name is Spencer Danner. I'm running for Nebraska Secretary of State. Secretary of State office is a statewide position, so anyone legally of age to vote and able to vote can vote in this election, along with our potential governor to my left as well. As Vanessa said, with a person of color running for a state office, it's very rare. There have only been 3 individuals in the last 40 years that have actually, of color, that have actually ran for a statewide office, and 2 of them are sitting right here. So that's kind of a big deal, and we need to understand that. For me, I'm 39 years old. I'm born and raised here in Omaha, Nebraska. I went to Omaha Northwest, graduated from there, graduated from Bellevue University. Go Huskies. What? And I'm married, 5 kids. My youngest is 1. My oldest is 15. I have 3 girls, 2 boys. All spectrums of life right now. They drive me crazy, but it's all good. I got somebody at home that's taking care of business, so that's what's up. For me, I decided to run because for me, the balance of power and influence in the state is being taken to one direction and suits for one demographic of individuals. We need to make sure that that balance of power and influence works for all citizens in the state. And so for myself, I want to make sure that I'm looking to modernize the Secretary of State office. I want to advance economic development in the state. And I want to preserve the integrity and security of our elections. That is why I'm running, and thank you very much.
Good evening, good evening. My name is Michael Hughes. I'm running for Douglas County Sheriff. As everyone to my left, a lot of issues in our community stem from police and community relations. So I want to run for the office and be able to build on those things and make the office more transparent. I want to bring community-oriented policing to the people of Douglas County, and I want to work with other law enforcement agencies in our community in order to bring you the best public safety possible. Just a little bit about me. Born and raised here in Omaha, Nebraska. Went to Central High School, Go Eagles. Graduated from this institution here with a degree in criminal justice. Served in the United States military. Was a soldier in the U.S. Army. Did a tour in Afghanistan, and I was a police officer in Savannah, Georgia for approximately 5 years. Michael Hughes.
Hey Hey, how y'all doing? That was weak. I said, how y'all doing? My name is Michael Young. Can I just get a round of applause for these candidates here, right here to my left? I'm actually the only individual, I'm not in an active race right now per se, directly myself. I am elected at Metro Community College, District 2. It is the highest density district in the entire state. We have just shy of 100,000 people, eligible registered voters in my district. In addition, I'm appointed to the Transit Authority, but for all you folks stepping up here to serve our community, thank you for what you do. It's awesome. Born and raised here in Omaha, go Bears, but I actually started at prep, so there's that. First and foremost, I'm a father. I have, it's Jaden, but I call him Mr. Young right up here, being awesome. I have 3 boys and a girl, so Spencer, I feel you, from 12 to 2. So tween to potty training. It is going on in my house. One of the things that I really focus on, and I sit on a variety of community boards, in addition to something that was really exciting starting this year, getting people of color to run for our office. You guys talked about balance. So we started to say, how can this be different? Well, we need to play with the big boys. And the big boys form and always build support around political action committees. So we have formed one to get black and brown folks to run for the office, what seats are available, how to get funding, how to get support, how to get mentored behind all of that. So that's one of the things that I really focus on, and more than anything besides trying to be a good father is to build policies and sit at the table, because if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the table, and I always want to set things up to leave them better than I found it. So thank you for today.
Thank you all for sharing. Some of you all did allude to it, but for those who want to go more in detail, kind of explain why you're vying for your position and what your platform is, or what initiatives you plan to enact in your role if elected. And Eric, I'm going to actually pass you this microphone, so feel free to keep that one on that end, okay?
So there are 3 things that I'm focusing on with my campaign for OPPD. First is fair rates for all ratepayers. Omaha Public Power District is one of the districts in the state of Nebraska in a unique position because Nebraska is all public power. So in every jurisdiction there is only one public electric utility, and that utility is not a private for-profit business. It is a public entity with a board of directors who is responsible only to the people who live in that area. So fair rates for all ratepayers means for the ratepayer owners of that utility. We are all ratepayer owners of OPPD just by living in this area. And so a couple of years ago, when OPPD made a change in the rate structure, they began to increase the fixed fee on the bill and proportionally decrease the kilowatt hour consumption cost. And that's particularly challenging for people who are low income, moderate income, fixed income, or who don't use very much energy in their home. This was in 2015. At the time, about 100 people came down to the OPPD board meeting, testified against the fixed fee increase in the rate structure, and the board still decided to move forward with that. In 2016, 2 board members ran on platforms that were specifically opposed to that new rate structure that was enacted, and I'm following on that same path, where we have a rate structure that is particularly bad for some people and giving an advantage to others. And those people are disproportionately in Subdivision 6, those people who are suffering from this rate structure. So it's really important to me that we examine that and figure out a way to make energy affordable for all people in OPPD service territory, not just a few, as was mentioned before, that we have a lot of policies that benefit a few at the expense of others. Secondly, I'd like to see more public engagement from OPPD. We're actually in the OPPD community room right now, so it's a good place to talk about engaging with our public utility. Until last year, there had never really been a public forum by a sitting OPPD board member. And then Director Moody had a public forum last year. He had another one 2 weeks ago. And so there's starting to be some more intentional engagement with the community around issues that are really important to everyone. And so during the campaign, and hopefully as a board member, I look forward to engaging with people a lot more than has been done in the past as a board member, and encouraging the management as well as the staff to also engage, again, with the ratepayer owners because it's a public utility, and we are the ones who get to decide what is most important for our utility. So fair rates, public engagement, and third is new energy market opportunities like clean energy, electric vehicles, smart grid technology, all kinds of new tech that can make our utility both produce energy more cleanly and be more efficient in the transmission, distribution, and use of energy in our homes and businesses here in our community. So those are the three things that are most important to me in my campaign, and I look forward to talking with you more about them. And if there are other issues specifically in Subdivision 6 in Northeast Omaha, like shutoffs or efficiency in homes, I would really appreciate hearing from you about those because, again, this is the first time that Subdivision 6 gets to vote for a board member specifically, and that person should represent those interests. And to date, I feel like there's been some room for improvement in that area. So if you have any more really important issues to you, please feel free to let me know, and I look forward to talking to you about that.
Eric, can you just help me save on my light bill, please? That's all I need.
Yeah, I recommend LEDs and other... come over, we can look at it. I'll straighten up for it.
Is it my turn, Michael? My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Vanessa Ward, back at you. I'm vying for the position of governor because I've been a grassroots organizer all my life. And I know the power of that kind of organizing. You know the people. You see how policy is on paper, but in the actuality, it doesn't really carry out to the people that is best served. So knowing those things, I feel like I bring a lot of connection to vying for the highest office of the state. Legislation has to pass my desk. I'll get a chance to look at it as a visionary to say, no, I don't think we thought that out. It might look good for 2020, especially with our census coming up. Then we have our redistricting that we're going to be looking at. You're going to need somebody in that seat that's going to understand that this line here could be devastating to our community and our future generations. You're also going to need someone that's going to be able to challenge Governor Rickett toe-to-toe. Now, Bob Chris and Tyler, I'm sure they're wonderful gentlemen. But at the end of the day, people want to make a difference. There's a climate going clear across our country where people want a different flavor. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be chocolate. Somebody say that. But at the same time, we're ready for a difference. So the way that I see that I would best serve is coming for education. I want to start there first. This is my alma mater. UNO is being back home, being here today. But at the same time, our public school system is in dire need of some real overhauling. For one thing, I don't understand, and this is my point 3, I don't understand why we don't teach agriculture in our public school forum when we are the state for agriculture. I don't understand why we're not teaching how to grow your own food. There's things that just do not connect. I'd like to see more Black, African American education. I would like to see more of that instilled in our schools. But at the same time, we're talking about school safety. I do not agree that teachers should be carrying guns when we don't even ask for a background check. There's a lot of things that I think public school is lacking, and that will be my first concern. Now, on a higher education level, I definitely feel like we should be doing everything we can to make sure education is affordable as possible. I would like to see some student loan forgiveness. There's a whole bunch of things that we need to be thinking about from the higher seat instead of scrapping at grassroots trying to get people to hear us. You need leadership in place that will listen. The other thing I'm looking at is good jobs, but great wages and better benefits. I have a high interest for the working class. You might say, well, what about the unemployed? That follows taking care of those that are working. I said, now, I asked one of my young students, I said, tell me, how come everybody said they can't get a job, and every time I go into Burger King, Wendy's, hey, we're hiring. They said, because those jobs mean you have to have 3 of them. You have to work this one and then, okay, I'm listening. With that, then I'd like to see women making equal pay as men. I hope somebody says yay. I would like to see us bringing in the economics. I'd like to see us making more hard money as opposed to soft money. I don't have a problem with grants. I don't have a problem with you needing things for your nonprofit. But at the end of the day, money comes with control. Money comes with strings. And then when you're being puppeted and can't say, can't do because you might get your livelihood cut off, I'd like to see us be more powered with for-profit money. And then, because I'm running for the state office, I cannot leave out District 3. And that is agriculture and doing everything we can do to preserve our natural resources. Our children's children should not have to go through the ashes of our ruins to find their destiny. Because we didn't look well down the road for what's best for them. We have the greatest natural resources with water. Your pipeline coming through, I'm not saying you can't stop progress, but I am saying we better do everything possible to make sure that we protect the natural resources from being soil corrosion because of big money. Be careful. Smaller farmers are out here working just as hard as you. Be careful. And you need leadership in place that's looking well down the line for the families of Nebraska. And when I say families, I'm talking about all families. I'm going to rest right there, give you a chance now. Thank you, Vanessa. School board. To be very honest with you, this journey probably started a few years ago. I mentioned that I have a 17-year-old son. He has been a student at Bryan High School. I recently actually just pulled him out. He is actually now attending the Gateway to College program, which is still an OPS program. But as a mother, in 2014, I spent a couple of months away from home. I had suffered a major health event. I had heart and kidney failure. And so I was away from home. My son was a freshman in high school. And that's when I really started realizing the issues that were existing. And so as a parent, I recognize that schools in South Omaha, which by the way, Bryan and South, have many students from all parts of Omaha, Nebraska. So my son was having some issues with school, with his grades, and I had a teacher tell me, and no parent should ever hear, that there are so many kids in the classroom that I need to help this other kid because I know your son is smarter than him, so I need to help him first. You know, and I mentioned I'm not that sit-back person. That's never been me. And that's my baby, right? So as opposed to me sitting back and just fussing about it, I have to do something about that. There's a transportation issue. Me and my son live almost 4 miles away from the school, and yet my son can't take a bus to Bryan High School. Well, guess what? I'm taking Metro. I'm taking the bus. So how do I get my son to school? And if I ask these questions, I can't get answers. So now I have to work with the counselor who has to work with the friend who can get a van who can come pick my son up. And these are issues that no one should have to deal with. Our children should be able to get up in the morning and go to school and get the education that's going to get them. What also they didn't mention was sometimes we can't get these jobs because we don't have the skills, right? So our kids should be able to get up, go to a supported public school without having to worry about 38 kids in the classroom, or you can't get to school. So for me, the reason why I'm running is because I recognize that there are issues. My platform, to be very honest with you, I'm running uncontested. So I'm taking my time to really think about what that's going to be. Because whatever I say, that's what I'm going to do, right? So right now for me, that's transportation. That's the overcrowding issue. I'm trying to sit down with teachers as well, though, and do listening sessions. Because what I found out in my time being involved in what people call politics, I don't like the word, what I call service, is that oftentimes people who are in leadership positions aren't spending enough time listening to the people who are actually involved. So for me, it's transportation, it's overcrowding. I recognize a lack of diversity in the schools, especially in the staff. I have never been a teacher per se, but I have done leadership development in OPS in the elementary schools.
I volunteer my time with my youth group, and we don't just dance. We do work ethics training, leadership development as well, and I also do teaching at my church. So I have a love for service. I have a love for youth, and I know what this world is going to do to them, especially in Omaha, Nebraska. And by the way, I attended the breakout session at Heartland 2050 last Thursday, and it was wonderful. It broke my heart, but it was wonderful. But some of these things are things that we can also prepare for in our school system as well. So that is why I am running for OPS board.
Double fisted. All right, check this out. The Secretary of State office, in my humble opinion, and with all due respect to all of our candidates here, the Secretary of State, people have to understand, it is the most impactful position in this state. The Secretary of State office actually oversees every election in this state. And people have to understand that and how much it means for this individual to be a person of integrity and a person that is nonpartisan. It's extremely important. I'm running, as I stated before, to modernize the Secretary of State office, to advance economic development, and to preserve the integrity and security of our elections. We must modernize the Secretary of State office quite simply by replacing our antiquated voting system. We have our voting system that's been there for over 15 years. 15 years. I don't know many people who have computers or TVs over 5 years. But we've had a system in place that is antiquated over the last 15 years. We also need to partner with Homeland Security to help ensure that we are protected against foreign and domestic cyber interference that's happening nationally. People have to understand this is not just about Russia. What happened a couple of years ago is going to happen again this year, and it's going to happen in 2020 if we don't take this more seriously. We must advance economic development by attracting and retaining both talent and business in this state. Situations like Cabela's in greater Nebraska that decimate an entire community shouldn't happen. Situations like Conagra that happen here in Omaha without anyone knowing what's going on, just waking up the next day and a Fortune 500 company and leave our state. That shouldn't happen. I believe the Secretary of State should be involved in that particular opportunity. We need to grow our small business ecosystem, and we need to strengthen our agricultural sector. As our candidate to my left said, agriculture is extremely important in this state. People don't understand. We have soybeans, wheat, and corn that are only grown in this state, that are sold in India, China, Indonesia. We need to be ensuring that we are exporting more than we are importing in the state. We need to ensure that we're helping our farmers and ranchers. But also we need to help our small businesses all across the state. And right now, the Secretary of State has been a rubber stamp office for making sure your LLCs and your corporations are all in line. Under my leadership, I will make sure that we are investing in small businesses, that not only we're looking at investment and money opportunities, but also education and administration help for those small businesses. Also, if we truly want to preserve the integrity and security of our elections, we have to change our voter registration system and stop trying to push this voter ID laws that are strict and suppressive for individuals of color and individuals of low and moderate income. That's extremely important to me. We have to look at opportunities of how we're going to bring more people in the voting process, whether we do same-day registration, whether we look at an election that when you actually go to vote, that you are not disallowed to vote because you have an error or omission on your voter registration. You should be able to change it the day that you go in. There's a lot of suppressive acts that our state government has been doing. And the Secretary of State is responsible to make sure the integrity of that is moving us forward. There are two issues there are two parts that are part of this responsibility that I think people need to know, especially people in this room. Number one is that redistricting is an issue. Congressional District 2 got redistricted a few years ago, and they're going to do it again. And people don't have to understand, Congressional District 2 is all of Omaha. And when they redistrict your area, they take your vote away from you. They take the impact of what your vote is. The Secretary of State is very influential in this. That's one. Number two, and a hidden gem that no one knows about, the Secretary of State is a voting member of the Pardons Board. It's the governor, the Attorney General, and Secretary of State. What's the demographic of those individuals that are coming in front of the Pardons Board? We have never had a person of color as a Pardons Board member, voting member, since they went to this 3-panel board. And we have to understand, this is not just, we're not talking about pardons of trying to commute sentences. We're just talking about giving people their rights back. That's the majority of the individuals that are trying, people just trying to get a job. One of your illustrious members of your organization did an outstanding job and talking about what happens when individuals who have possibly made a mistake in their life get an opportunity to get that expunged from their record so that they can continue to move. It's happened to myself. It's happened to members of my family. But people have to understand that we have to have somebody that looks like us, come from where we come from, and understand our situations as well, and give us that opportunity. Nebraskans need to make sure that they elect their leaders and that they have to stand for something. And for me, if you elect me and vote for me, keep in mind, I am also unopposed for May 15th. But I'm going to be running against a Republican who was handpicked by Pete Riggins, who has a war chest to go against me. I guarantee you put me in front of him, he can't beat me in a debate. Because he knows nothing about voting in this state and the impact of all citizens in this state. You guys have to make sure that on May 15th, we still get out and vote for this particular office, because the state needs to know that we are serious and that we are a serious candidate for Secretary of State. And it's not just about me. This is extremely important. And I say this, whether I win, lose, or whatever, I'm going down fighting, I'm going up fighting, whatever the case may be. We have to make sure that all of us show our power and our strength on May 15th and continue that going into November. I stand to protect and preserve the integrity of our elections, to modernize the Secretary of State office, and to advance economic development. Thank you.
Mike Hughes, once again, running for Douglas County Sheriff. As I alluded to, I was a police officer in Savannah, Georgia. I was born and raised here in Omaha, Nebraska. When I was policing in Savannah, I realized I was encountering a lot of young people. And those young people, it was the middle of the day. The kids weren't in school, they weren't working. I was taking young people to jail from stealing candy bars to murder. And it started to eat at my heart. It started to make me look at life in a different sense. We have to be more proactive with our youth and our community rather than reactive. A lot of things that are going on in our community are very, very, very reactive. We have officers engaging with our young people. We have officers engaging just in our community as a whole, and they don't understand the culture and the dynamics that come from a black community or a brown community. And I think we have to look at these things and say, how do we become proactive? So me looking in the mirror and saying, hey, you have an opportunity to influence not only North Omaha, not only Nebraska, but the world, the nation, as we look at policing and law enforcement as a whole. So my wife and I married, 2 kids. We moved back to Nebraska, and I wanted to do something proactive. So right now I'm currently a career coach with Avenue Scholars Foundation, and it's a scholarship program that provides mentoring, guidance, and counseling to young people. Then the opportunity presented itself for Douglas County Sheriff. And as I sat back and I said, in a predominantly white conservative state, this office has been unopposed for 23 years. The current sheriff, older male, Caucasian, he's been in office for 23 years. And it's the same mindset, the same type of policing that, is hit them over the head with the hammer and throw them in the jail and let them rot, literally. I want to bring just a different dynamic, some freshness, some new flavor to the office, not only to the law enforcement aspect, but to the community aspect. I feel like we have to have officers engaged in our community. We have to have officers walking the beat. We have to have officers handing out codes, handing out bikes, engage with our youth to break the perceptions, not only from law enforcement's perspective, but from the community's perspective. Because there's no way a young person should walk the street, walk in fear, see an officer, and run. There's no way. That's how all these things, this is where it starts. This is where it precipitates at, is at the beginning with the community relations. Nextly, just increase in transparency. When events happen in our community, the community has to be abreast as to what's going on, and then we have to be abreast on the laws and the psyche that is changing in our state legislature with our governor, different things like that. There's laws that's changing that go into effect and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows. So we have to not only educate law enforcement, we have to educate our community on what's next and what we do to move forward. Lastly, collaboration. We have multiple municipalities or local, multiple law enforcement agencies that just work independently. We have to be able to come together and sit at the table as a black man, being a Douglas County Sheriff, sitting at the table with Sarpy County, Omaha Police, Ralston, Papillion, all these various agencies to figure out how we can impact our communities to get our community relations better. Until we figure that part out, we're going to continue to have issues. We're going to continue to have tumultuous times. We're going to continue to have young people gunned down in the street. We're going to continue to have unarmed black men harassed and different things of that nature. And until we understand the dynamics of our laws and how to make an impact from our perspective, we got to fix this, guys. And I'm hoping to be the guideline or the threshold and the face of change. So I thank you.
I don't like this whole being on the end thing. Man, y'all some tough folks to follow. But, really we were talking about, Mike, you said collaboration. It really starts with everyone here being an engaged voter and informed. And I'm sure I can speak for everybody up here in this panel. Ask us any questions, what you don't know, what you're scared of, or what you're concerned about. But just think about your house today or any family member. Okay, Metro Community College, public transit right here. We're talking public safety, economic development and elections. We're talking about our school system. We're talking about our governors, and we're talking about our municipalities and our light bills. There are many people right here are going to affect your day-to-day life. And if you're not going to at least support us with that, find a candidate that you do support and get behind them, because the type of synergy and collaboration that this group of people can have, it's phenomenal. So, really quick for me, what I want to talk about is the 3 reasons why I run. I was appointed to the Transit Authority here. We call it Old Metro now. Back in my days, I called it MAT or Madillac, because that was the only wheels we had growing up. But, so first was access. And not just traditional access to just open a door, but really equity. There's this term that goes around, and I agree with the term, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I like focusing on equity first. Reason being is that if you're going to set the stage, make it an equal stage, and then make sure everyone is invited. Don't just open a door. Invite them. Reach out to them. Be inclusive with that. And I think that needs to be understood, that that's not just race. That's age. That's also people who have health and access issues. If you have mobility issues, that also matters. And the other piece, when it talks about when it comes to access, I really care about, so I focus on a lot of young men of color in community colleges, and I travel the country talking about this and learning about this. And one thing that we have an issue here is representation. So not everyone always gets to know what's going on with a young man of color when it comes to getting in college. A lot of times we're taught, growing up, myself included. I remember when I went down to Lincoln for my first class, I went there and I was like, all right, so I have a PhD now. I made it to college. But that retention rate is big. And in the state of Nebraska, where we have, the city areas that we have in Omaha and Lincoln, but the rest of the state being rural, we talk about this missing male. We talk about how not everybody's a farmer anymore. Everybody's not a ranch handler. And that does matter. The missing male is not just a black problem in North Omaha or East Omaha. It's an entire state problem, and that affects our economic development. Secondly, I want to talk about, one of my points was education, training in trades. And for some weird reason, that's been pushed on for so many years that becoming a plumber, a welder, a carpenter, a tileman has been problematic. But, you see gentlemen and young women right now out in Fremont who are going through getting a welding certificate making $60,000 a year, year one, as opposed to having $60,000 a year in debt. And I'm not saying 4 year, 2 years better, but I want to put a focus on trades because it gets people working and contributing back in our community quicker. And then, of course, the economic development piece. As a business owner and entrepreneur, I want people not only to have access to opportunities in the community, I want what we build now, and Nebraska is trying to do this a bit better. It's called a pathway, where you partner with economic developments and other folks stepping at the table, other entrepreneurs, and say, what is the money that the state spends? I mean, the REACH program and what the chamber's doing, it's a great version 1, version 2, but what's great about it is just from a concrete contractor perspective and building up people in our community to be at that table to bid. City of Omaha spends roughly $18 million a year just to repair the potholes, and I know potholes matter to all of us in this room, okay? But we should get a fair share of that pie, and some of that is just having the ability and there's some representation of someone that brings us to the table, and that's one of the things I like to do. So, and again, thanks.
Thank you guys so much. So as we're going to move forward with other questions, just for the sake of time, I want you all to get your questions answered and have some really great ones. So if you could, everyone know real quick, you don't have to answer every question. No big deal. And if you can answer, limiting your response to 6 max, 9. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, see right now. Before I open our questions, does anyone have a question in the audience?
Mike.
Oh. Okay.
You need to use the mic.
So,
use the mic.
Oh,
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Sheesh. So if you have been following the news, been a lot of talks about Governor Ricketts' tax plan. So for Omaha residents, what does that mean exactly, and what can we expect from you in your role as well?
I'll speak really quick on this. Previously, before Ricketts was involved, if you don't know it, at Lincoln, the Appropriations Committee, we had Senator Heath Mello, who was a huge advocate for transportation, and he fought really hard for us to get some grants, some funding from Lincoln, which was very beneficial. We're going to have that lost again this year. It's kind of interesting that there are places in the state of Nebraska, and it started under Governor Heidemann, and Ricketts also feels the same way, that even though Omaha and Lincoln combined have 1 million+ folks, the support that we get, as opposed to sometimes we feel like the favoritism the rest of the state may have, it's interesting. One of the biggest issues I will directly talk about is the fact that we're going to lose roughly $2.4 million at Metro Community College last year from the state of Nebraska. And that's going to be moved, $2.4 million roughly. And then that is going to be moved to another 1%, which we were happy about because they originally were going to move it to 2%. So basically look at it, for every 1%, we lose roughly $1.2 million. How that really matters is that it affects our grants. That affects our expansions, our inclusions. You guys see all the things that we do. We are here today at UNO, but that was one of the biggest problems for me, in addition to the things that are going into Washington and how it'll hurt other states from the higher education piece. So just to speak on that, those are the 2 biggest issues I have right now with Ricketts. One of the first things I think that, and it's happening in DC, how do you take away funding from kids, education, and the people who actually need it? That always bothers me.
All right, stay guy. So real quickly, I would say that I think the question is, what does this do to Omaha residents? And in my estimation, that if you are a business or a person that does not make $100,000, pulling less of $100,000 in taxable income, you're kicked out of the program. You're not getting any benefit. And that's how it's going to affect most of North Omaha. You are not going to see a direct benefit. Low-income renters will get 0 benefit from this. So if you are not a homeowner or if you are a low to moderate income individual, you will see 0 benefit of this. And actually, most small businesses that are in North Omaha will not see a benefit from this tax relief. That's what we have to do. You have to really look at that fine print and really truly understand. Now, I will tell you, my office has nothing to do with it. But as a statewide constitutional position, I do feel like I would have some kind of influence in some sway and be able to go down to that unicameral and talk with them. And I have to work directly with whoever the governor is as well. So please educate yourself on this because it affects your families and people in this community more so than anyone else.
And just to piggyback off of Spencer very quickly, I don't see much impact for low or middle class either with that. What I do see is a cut in corporate taxes over 5 years, and me with my background being workforce development, I guess on the flip side, I did see where they're going to be putting $5 million per year into workforce development every year. I don't know what that looks like though. So yeah, just to piggyback off of Spencer, I don't see the connection or benefit for low or middle class, but I will say, again, and this is probably going to be a different question, but it leads into the importance of paying attention to who's running for office, what their position does. So really, it's just a matter of being focused and paying attention. Just wanted to say that.
So from OPPD's perspective, I would mention that development of wind energy in Nebraska helps build property tax base in Nebraska. Purchasing fossil fuels from outside of the state is sending money out of our community and not helping our state budget. Developing clean energy resources in Nebraska helps build our state's internal funding and keep money here in Nebraska. And OPPD has been shifting to more wind energy over the last several years to replace old coal plant, the old coal infrastructure in North Omaha and the nuclear plant that came offline. But there is more room for additional clean energy development to build property tax base in Nebraska to help generate new revenue in the state to make up for some of what is being proposed to be cut. And I don't know exactly how that would impact OPPD, nearly as much as some of the other offices, but there are opportunities for new revenue that should be explored here in Nebraska.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
All right, this is Chris Snipe. So we've seen that a lot of teachers in different states have walked out or gone on strike just based on their conditions as within their schools. So have you given any thought as to how to prevent something like that in Omaha, or how to relieve the stress that teachers are having right now? And then also, I know you touched a little bit about this, but I know like for Conagra, one reason why they went to Chicago is they were looking for talent. And with the school system, the university system, they're able to tap into that. And so have you also given some thought into how we would be able to, our students coming out, maybe wanting to work right away, how can we get them plugged in and really cultivate the talent that we do have here?
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that first question.
Basically,
I'm sorry.
How can we relieve, you talked about the overcrowding in the schoolrooms. I know that teachers are always paying for their supplies. They're taking on a lot more work than their position probably should have. So have you thought into how we can relieve that?
I have been giving that some thought. I've been hearing about the teachers who are going on strike. One of the questions that was going to be asked was about the budget. And even just thinking about that. I've been having some conversations. I was talking to Sharif Lawaru a little while ago. I'm going to first jump into the diversity and talent. We've got to find a way to keep, I'm going to go back to the Black young professionals. We have to find a way to keep them here. What does that look like? I don't know. Everybody I know is leaving. No, I'm very serious when I say this because it's the conversation that we have with my family all the time. I have no siblings here because they have left. I stay here because I choose to and I want to make some sort of difference. But how do I do that? I know I can't do it by myself. With this school board, I'm really intrigued by the leadership that is coming in. What I really like to do is sit down and talk to her. Like I said, I've been talking to Sharif Lawaru. I don't know what that looks like right now. I don't know what I say to these teachers to get them here to say. But what I will say is this. Our teachers deserve respect. Our teachers deserve the pay that they should get. Our children in the schools, though, deserve to have a diverse staff that understand them. Again, how do we get them to stay here? I don't know what that looks like. I know what it looks like. It looks like fair treatment. It looks like equal pay. It looks like a cultural understanding of our youth. But how do we obtain that? I guess that's the question I'm asking. You know what I mean? And I can't do anything but be honest with you because I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how do I get my own people to stay here. And I haven't even figured that out. They trying to get me to leave. You see what I'm saying? So that's a great question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but as I continue to talk with these teachers, as I continue to listen to them, we can definitely come back and continue this conversation. But I don't know how to get them to stay right now. But like I said, I've been having these conversations with people. I'm really hoping to figure that out.
Can I just say, we just got to give, corporations and business just got to give a damn. There's a lot of talent that's graduating from here that's walking out. They can't wait to graduate. They can't wait to get out of Nebraska, get out of Omaha, get to Atlanta, DC, Houston, wherever the case may be, because they don't feel like corporations care about bringing them on board. So because one of the questions we're talking about is that we're looking at diversity and inclusion, and a lot of our organizations, first of all, think diversity and inclusion is the same thing. Secondly, they also put both of those characters in human resources instead of making sure that it's incorporated in every department within all these organizations. So when you put it in human resources, you're just attempting to reach a quota. And your quota is making sure that you have diverse interviews and people that are being a part of that. But what you're not doing is that you're not being inclusive and hearing where they're coming from and making sure that they are part of the decision making. So when young people have an opportunity, and I'm only speaking of this because with Secretary of State office, we do have a department that is actually supposed to be civically engaging young people. And in my role, and what I feel like is a responsibility, is to make sure that we work with organizations, work with businesses, and those individuals who don't want to work for an employer, who actually want to be an entrepreneur. The Secretary of State office should be a beacon of those individuals that are looking to try to stay in Nebraska. We have a huge talent drain in this state, especially with young people. So we have to engage our organizations, we have to engage businesses, and actually provide incentives for them to hire individuals to keep young people here in the state. That's what I would recommend from Secretary of State's standpoint on that.
That's actually a great segue. And so I was just recruited. I'm from Philadelphia, been here for a little over a year. And so I'm a transplant. And they paid pretty good money to bring me out here. But I think you have a good point about diversity and inclusion. Because even people who are coming out of here, they attract you with money. When you get here, you see the lack of inclusivity just even coming. So I guess my question for not everyone, of course, but how do you plan on implementing diversity and inclusion in your efforts, if elected?
Okay, I would like to speak to that if I may. One of the main things that I'm seeing at the governor's level is the inability to really see people for your work. And not only that, be willing to listen and find out what we can do to better serve your interests. There is a term called principal pluralism. In that, I want you to kind of imagine the youth coming with what you bring to the table, the elders coming with what they bring to the table, you're black, you're white, you're brown. Everybody comes to the table like it's a potluck. Now, in that, this principal pluralism, what's going to happen is everybody that goes down the table is going to get a chance to eat. But the point is, you don't have the right to make me eat the tuna casserole that you may have brought. Somebody hear me on that? And neither do I have a right to make you eat the fried chicken that I may have brought. Somebody hear me? But at the end of the day, we all bring our work to the table. And everybody's welcome with the diversion, with the inclusion, with the pluralism. It's called tolerance versus fake tolerance. And what we've been getting here in Nebraska is fake tolerance. That's where if you don't do it my way, there's no way. This generation, I'm talking to you, young professionals, you're challenging that. And not only are you challenging that here in Nebraska, you're challenging it clear across the nation. It is time to hear that I might have a different way of doing it. And it may not be the old set way, and it may not be the way that you think. But when we move in this pluralism, and we come to the table with what we bring, and everybody accepts it, everybody goes away fed. This is what I believe we're going to be challenged at the upper C, to be able to see things and bring people so that they can see I matter, I'm valued. All families, all arts, all different ways. And when Nebraska can adapt that, I think we're going to see a lot of oppression lift off. I think a lot of pressure is going to seep off the families and off of who you are and what you bring to the table. So I'm excited about seeing that happen. But it's going to take you to have to bombard it. It's going to take you to have to propel it and believe in it, because Nebraska is an outstanding place to raise your families. It's an outstanding place for you to be all that you can be. But we have to move in this pluralism. So I'm challenging you with that thought.
As far as what you were saying, we were talking about the teachers and not so much the students. Because what I find and see that there's really no opportunity for the teachers. We don't get teachers from outside, and we can't even keep the ones that we have inside. So now we're getting teachers who don't have a degree, don't have a passion, have never been trained to teach, who is now teaching our kids. So what do you say about that? Because it's more to them than students. It's still the personnel, the office personnel. The office personnel and the custodians and the cafeteria. It takes all of that to make OPS. So that's what I'm saying. What are the opportunities for the teachers and the office professionals and those people that are not, being looked at as well because of the,
I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand your question.
My first question was the teachers. What opportunities do you see for
the
them?
teachers?
For
as
teachers,
far as a more
that,
diverse set of teachers?
Well, being their job, their pay, moving up, their education, because now anybody can apply and be a teacher.
I was not aware that anybody.
I can tell you there's a couple of teachers that were taught, and they're teaching our high school kids. And because they don't know how to teach our kids, then they're just there. They're just there, along with not doing the background check.
Right.
So there are a lot of issues within the TAC building or the administration that will also hold and prevent the kids from progressing.
And
it doesn't open, and we're not opening up to new students or teachers outside of Nebraska. We used to be able to get teachers outside of Nebraska as well. We're not, it's like the background check. They're taking anything.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off, and it's interesting, but that's one of the conversations, and I hate to get off, but this is one of the conversations I was having with Sharif as we were talking about, just the lack of cultural diversity in the teachers. Now, as far as just anybody be able to come in and teach, that is news to me, but that's something I'm going to be looking into. But that is, as far as the culture, that's one of the things that Sharif and I were talking about. As far as, it seems to me like there's been an issue trying to find teachers just even within this area. So then the conversation was going and finding teachers outside of the area. But it also seems to me like just the board in itself has been, and I hate to say it, but it's been so toxic to where it's really like nothing has been getting done. And myself, I'm a process person, right? I like to come in and see what the process has been, what's the problem with that process, then try to address that. That's how I operate. Now, I will say that I was pleased by the fact that the board was actually able to come to a consensus on this new superintendent. But there's a lot about the board I don't know. I will be finding out, but we're going to be talking anyway. But there's some issues. There's some issues, and I really feel like what we're talking about with the diversity, that's a major issue. That's a major issue with our children. It's very hard for our children to go to school and just even relate, right? And so it's an issue. It's an issue. And we're going to talk some more after this, but yeah. So.
For
I'm
the
sorry,
sake
but
of
that's
time,
just shocking to me.
you're okay. For the sake of time, we're going to refrain. Hopefully, our candidates can hang out for a little bit after our meeting. So if you have any questions for them directly, feel free to pull them aside. I guess kind of to wrap up, my last question is, what can we do as Omaha residents, as community members, to be more engaged, be more present during this election in the next couple of months?
I'd love to speak on this one. Can you guys hear me okay?
No.
Right? Now I felt like I went too loud. One of the first things is to get involved. Yeah, that's probably better. So that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that. So one of the first things is to get involved. Whether that's education, safety, economic development, clean energy. If you care about saving money on your light bill like I do, find out who your local candidate is, or become one yourself next time. One of the first things that really matters about being at this table is your passion. Not all the positions that we're up here looking for are even paid positions. Some of these are just almost volunteers. And so, two things. One, I would say, is keep doing what you're doing right now. Ask questions, host forums, and be inclusive with that. Two, make sure that you have the mindset of that even if someone doesn't agree with you, that you listen to them, because you also want them to listen to you when you share yours. And if I can, with working with, when we talk about people of color here in this room, and Urban League has done a great job with that, the Nebraska Unity PAC, which I sit on the board on, really supports candidates stepping up that represent us. That when you talk about how can I identify myself with that? Where's that inclusion come to be? Let's talk about anybody in this room who wants to learn more about that seat or who's running. We'll ask those questions. So let's meet at the line. But I would say if you could go to NEBUnityPAC.com. Take a look at us. There's ways to support us. We also support candidates like everyone up here at this table. But I would say, let's get involved.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that involvement aspect. I'm part of the Nebraska Unity PAC as well with Mr. Young. I'm also part of the Nebraska Black Caucus with Ms. Snipe. So there's ample opportunity to become involved. We have we have Facebooks for the Nebraska Unity PAC and the Black Caucus as well. You can use my contact information. I have cards in the back. You can contact me on how to get involved. As far as law enforcement, as far as involvement in law enforcement, I said education and open-mindedness are probably the two keys that you all as general citizens can get involved in. If you know more about your rights, the procedures of law enforcement, and what you can do to protect yourself, we can all move forward. We can all have a great day, right? And then the open-mindedness is being able to sit down, as everyone else alluded to, and say, okay, this is your opinion, this is my opinion, this is the actual fact. Let's come to a common ground. So that's what I would say, just open-mindedness and education.
I want to say something. If I could say real quick, just to be perfectly blunt about it, we have to stop stabbing each other in the back. We have to, people that look like you are putting their lives on hold to come out here to represent you. And there are a lot of people online and behind the scenes that are not being supportive of candidates of color. I don't understand that. This is something that we have probably we don't have a great Democratic bench that's been cultivated over the years, but I can tell you we have the strongest set of candidates that we've had in a long time. And we have to be able to say, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to know when early voting is, when the mail-in voting is, when the election day is, I'm registered, I'm everything, I'm correct. I'm ready to take this seriously. But we have to take it upon ourselves to truly care about moving this generation forward and moving this in 2018. Instead of spending so much time slandering our own people behind the scenes. We got to stop doing that. Now, for me, it don't bother me because I'm going to be me no matter what. I'm going to live in my truth and I'm going to be myself no matter what. I hope you support me because I believe in what I'm doing and what I stand for, but most importantly, I believe in this office. And I believe that this office is going to impact this area of our city more so than anywhere else. And I really, really want people to be out there and educate. So all I can say is educate. Any information, I'm available at dannerfornebraska.com. You can reach me. All my personal information is out there because I want to be able to talk to anybody that has questions in regards to making sure that you have the right to vote and you are ready to go in May 15th.
You're really pressed for time. So
I'm sorry.
One last question, and maybe one, max 2 responses for that. 2 nights.
Okay, my name is LaQuinty Campbell. Less than 1% of educators in Lincoln, Nebraska are African American, and I am one of those educators. I teach science. Lincoln is not looked at as an urban center of Nebraska, although there are a great deal of African Americans in Lincoln. I think one of the main things is that African American people in Lincoln don't feel as supported, and what we end up doing is migrating to Omaha or leaving. Now, with the highest office, the governor, is seated in Lincoln, what things do you all plan to do to kind of rally that population in Lincoln that so desperately needs that representation and that leadership?
I think that's an excellent question, sweetheart, and I want to say something. Even as I traveled to Macy, Nebraska, to meet with the Omaha tribe, and to hear their hearts about the same thing across Nebraska, I was inspired as I listened to the tribal leaders talk about how no one has even come to value their tribe and their people. That touched my heart, and to hear you say the same about Lincoln. With Lincoln, with us having the most outstanding college, start there, may I? And thank you for you being an educator. And at the same time, we got Scott on the team now, right? So we're supposed to be winning again. And all the attention that comes to Lincoln, I'm just going to keep trying to visualize how I see that, because I see Lincoln as an urban also. And then the District 3, which is our rural areas, they see that they get no attention. They feel like only Omaha and Lincoln are that all that matters in Nebraska. So when I'm back to that principle pluralism, I think what we're going to have to do is, as your governor, I'm going to make sure that every facet, every valley, every field, people will know that they're valued. Even when I go to South Omaha, I'm hearing it from the Brown community. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody feels like we're not connected. And that's what my strongest attribute is, bringing people together so that they know that they're valued in the state of Nebraska. That's what my rah-rah is. So I'm excited about that. And I hope I helped answer that.
Thank you.
So I would grab the microphone. So real quick on that, thank you for being an educator. Someone sitting at Metro Community College, I'll tell you this, it's a twofold issue. And first of it, it's really just having a gut check. One, every campus, whether you're 2-year or 4-year, you need to have a cultural competency. You have to. Is it immigration? Is it having to do with someone who's been in the system? What is it like having with more males, more females, or the opposite ratio? I mean, most people don't know that almost 60% of the students that are traditional students at Metro Community College are single mothers. Killing it full time, right? So the other piece about that is the actual administration, and it starts from the top down with support and funding and having candidates down in Lincoln, is having that real gut check of how am I going to feel comfortable if I'm not going to go somewhere where I can identify myself. And it's a real hard conversation that you have to have, because how do you say I want to eliminate any type of great educator who wants to devote their life to provide? But the really issue is if I'm going to have roughly 10% of my students be African American at Metro Community College, I should realistically have a very close ratio of administration and faculty. And so for me, I think that that's something that Nebraska's never done really well. It's always been Omaha and the rest of the state. Well, now, as you're talking about today, it's really Lincoln and Omaha and this metropolis and the rest of the state. And what's an issue here is not an issue there. And having someone in the governor's office and someone down at Secretary of State that really advocates for us is where it really matters. And so I get to talk about this really fun at Metro because I really get to just be in Metro. But we have 5 other community colleges. And what's going on in Western right now with Cabela's gone, and how they have funding issues and what tax dollars is going to be like for them, that college might go belly up without the support from someone in Lincoln. So to me, it's a bi-directional answer. So great question. Thank you.
Once again,
name's Lupe, if you didn't know. We have a couple more announcements that we want to give today before you guys leave. We're going to start with our community announcements. So if civic engagement can go first.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Those are my people up there. The important things that are coming up. April 14th, there will be a North Omaha political convention that the Whiteys have partnered on with some of the Greek organizations, NONA. There's just different organizations that's coming together to really collaborate to educate our community on voting issues. So that'll be Saturday, April 14th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Metro Ford campus in the Culinary Institute, which is Building 22. So please go out and support. We'll have candidates there. We'll have panels on different topic issues. We'll have information on voter registration, making sure you know where to go. We do know that some polling places are closing, things like that. Some important dates that we have coming up. Early voting. So you can mail in your ballots starting April 9th. Voting early in person at the election office, April 16th. If you are not registered to vote, your deadline to register to vote via registrar or online is April 30th, in person, May 4th. And of course, the most important date, May 15th, is the primary. So please make sure you get out and vote. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to contact me if you want to join the Civic Engagement Committee. We meet the second or third Tuesday. I can't remember which one now. Of the month, it will be at parties. But yeah, get with me and then I can give you the correct information.
Awesome, thank you. We'll move on to community service.
Hi, my name is DeJuan Hayes. I'm one of the community service co-chairs. We're meeting next Tuesday, actually at Sozo Coffee House downtown. We're committed to doing community service that is meaningful and impactful. So we actually did our first neighborhood cleanup just a few weeks ago, and that was really exciting. It was great to have a team come out and just get started and active and be seen and present in our community. There's going to be another community cleanup that NONA is hosting with a number of other. So North Omaha Neighborhood Alliance, that's what NONA is working with the other North Omaha neighborhood associations to do a community-wide cleanup on April 29th. If you don't know what your neighborhood association is, come talk to me and I can help you identify if there is one or if there isn't one started. Neighborhood associations help keep the fabric of our communities together. And if you see trash on your street, I would invite you to pick it up or get a group together and do that because no one else is going to do it. And then we are also working on planning our National Day of Service for June. So we're looking at around the weekend of Juneteenth to host it. And so anyone who's interested in participating and getting on board to help us plan. It's Dream STEAM is the theme this year, so we're trying to find ways to bring science, technology, art, engineering, and mathematics all together to really create an exciting, active day within the community. So you can talk to me or Brittany, my co-chair, about getting involved.
Awesome, thank you. Next, membership.
Hi everyone, my name is Anju and I'm the membership chair. If you have any questions on how to join or get involved with our group, feel free to contact me. And we're still looking to grow our membership committee, so if you want to join that as well, you're more than welcome.
All right, next we have personal and professional development.
Hello again, my name is Celia. My co-chair is Larissa in the bright yellow back there. It's chartreuse. A few announcements. First, so we are currently planning the Black Lives Retreat, which will occur in September, so later on this year. For those of you who are on that committee or interested in being a part of that committee, we're having our very first meeting this Thursday at Scooters. Scooters at 6. Yes. See how that social media. At Scooters. 103. Yeah. I'm learning Omaha.
Should have said the strip. Should have said the strip.
We also have our regular committee meeting. It is always on the second Thursday of each month. That will be next Thursday. We're finalizing our calendar and we're talking about our very first working Wednesday. So starting this month, one Wednesday a month, we'll feature some sort of topic that's kind of geared toward professionals, specifically professionals of color. So looking out for those. We're going to be doing a financial literacy series in June. So looking out for that. But we're officially finalizing our summer and fall calendar next Thursday. So if you're interested, talk to Andrew or pull myself or Larissa aside before the end of the meeting. We'll definitely get connected.
Awesome. PR and marketing.
Hello everyone, I'm Ashley, my picture is Lindsay. Really the biggest thing, like Indu said earlier, is if you do want to stay involved and connected with the Urban League YPs, please like our Facebook page. Hopefully you're connected with our newsletter. If you're not, please give one of us your email address so we can make sure that we're sending those out bi-weekly to you about our upcoming events. Kind of technically also a PR thing, but really from Finance Committee since our treasurer is not here. If you are interested in being out in the community with the Urban League YPs more, we do have a table at the 100 Black Men Gala. If you're a paid member, you could get a discounted ticket. If you are not, you will still have to pay full price. But we're really just trying to get a group of us together so we can network a little bit more than we have the opportunity to do at these meetings, and just support more local organizations. So if you would like to do that, you could definitely speak with Melinda. You can talk to me. We'll get you in touch with Johnny, and we can get that squared away.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. And last but not least, social.
Oh, sorry. Quick commercial break before social. So, Tania mentioned that there was a separate group for the retreat planning versus personal and professional development. So, I just want you guys to realize that you don't have to fully commit to a whole, committee. If you just want to kind of be a part of maybe one of the events, you're not required to do both. You can definitely help with the retreat, or as Anthony's about to tell you, the gala, as opposed to being a part of the entire committee and having, if you don't have the time to commit to the meetings for both things, it's perfectly fine if we can get your help with just maybe one of the events, something like that.
But if you like to go,
But yes, we're not turning you away.
How y'all doing? My name is Anthony Smith. I'm the co-chair along with Tamika Meach, she's out sick today, for Urban League. And before I get to the business, I'm going to shamelessly plug everybody who's not going to do it themselves. If this is your first meeting or you're on the fence about joining Urban League, all the people who spoke and who are in the room, who are committee members and paid members, are doing a lot of hard work to try to get this organization to where it can and should be. So I would implore you all to not make this the last time that you are dealing with Urban League young professionals in any kind of manner. And if it's your first or second time here, then be one of those people and bring somebody with you next time. I'm sure we all know somebody who is literally doing nothing right now, watching basketball games and highly alone. That's where I want to be at. But you know somebody else who could be here right now who's on the fence and who wants to do something and don't know how to do it. Everybody can't be a politician. I love the way you change that to service person. So everybody can't be in their position, but they have the courage to. But that don't mean we can't do what we control. So that's my little spiel, sir. All right. So social committee. How y'all doing again? Anthony Smith, social committee. Next thing we got coming up is April 21st. We have some fun stuff. We got a paint party. People call it paint sip and different things, but there's wine involved for you adults, and there's painting involved. So April 21st, from 6 to 9 p.m. at EBE Film Studio downtown. There is an Eventbrite page coming up really soon. You can get all the info on our regular Urban League Professionals page. It'll be $20 if you're a paid member, $25 if you are not. So that's April 21st. And also we have one of our bigger events, the Gala, Young Professional Gala. Last year was the first year, so this will be the second one we're having, and that is the weekend of November 16th and 17th. We had such a great response last year, so it's expanding a little bit. So it'll actually be a couple of days worth of things going on. So November 16th, November 17th, that weekend. The Gala itself is on the 17th. Be on the lookout for some things we have that weekend. Put it on your calendar. It's masquerade themed, so if you want people who got to get a specialty outfit made up, you got like 5 months, 6 months advance notice, 7 months. I'm not doing my math right now, so don't say you don't have an outfit or you last minute. We told you way in advance. Information and ticket about that will be coming out real soon, but As Tamia mentioned, they have a committee for the retreat. We have a committee separately just for the gala as well. So that next meeting is April 19th. There's a whole bunch of stuff we just threw at y'all. So long story short, go to Urban League Facebook page.
And download Slack so that you can be a part of the conversation. And there's a
Yeah, if you need help with Slack, phone me aside and help you out. The last thing, I wanted to make sure we got that all the way because it is 7:30, so if you need to head out, please do. The last thing we like to do at the end of each meeting is make sure we give opportunity to announce any kind of announcements that anybody might have outside of Urban League. So I guess I'll open the floor to anybody that's in the room. Any announcements, any events?
Yes. So it was mentioned about the Black Caucus, and I'm the chair of the Black Caucus. So we have elections coming up this summer. I don't know if I can say this, but I already started. So and that's the Democratic Party for the state. So we have elections. So the only thing I'm really trying to do right now is we're trying to build our membership, right? To me, it's not about necessarily party. It's about civic engagement. We haven't, when I say we, I mean Black people. We haven't really exercised our rights the way we really, really should. So we're trying to build up membership right now because there's power in numbers. And again, as opposed to being that person who just kind of talks about it, we try to be about it. And so trying to just build this membership so that we have numbers. We're getting ready for elections this summer. Spencer was talking about redistricting. When it comes to party, whichever one you belong to, there's several seats that are available even within parties, right? And so to me, the only real way to affect change is to do it from the inside. So if anybody has any interest in maybe partnering with us, even joining, and I might even have some ideas for white people too, like if somebody over 40 come in. But anyway, maybe we can talk about that because there's a lot of work to be done, and I believe in partnership all day. And I think that we might have different missions on paper, but at the end of the day, we all trying to do some of the same work. So if anybody is interested in talking about however we might be able to work together, whatever that may look like, just let me know that I'm down for whatever. Thank you. I'm just saying.
So I only have one that's coming up. Details will be put on Facebook and all our pages, Unity PAC, Urban League. We're trying to put together a elected North Omaha, predominantly Black elected officials town hall, working with Chris Rogers, Ben Gray, Mark Snow, myself, Shavana, Ricky Smith, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of state officials. I think we're going to try to get Justin Wayne there. We don't have law enforcement really invited, so it would be great to have some. But I believe right now we're looking at, Shelley left, but first week of June, I believe, so it'll be after primary, so no pressure for you. June 9th, I believe. And we'll have a town hall, but details to come. Just put it on your radar.
I think, because you all mentioned it earlier, I want to mention one more thing. Transplants, they're real, and we're here. So one, for those of you who might be one, if you're new, I am one, and I'm very appreciative of the Urban League because they were my first community when I got here. They were the first Black people that I saw. I'm a Rotary Cream. So they were the first Black community that I found. But if you guys do know anybody who is new to the area, definitely make sure you check up on them. The first year is very, very difficult. First couple, I think. So just, I know we check on your strong friend if you haven't already. Self-care is also super important. And mental health. So if you haven't checked on your strong friend lately, definitely shoot them a text, a phone call, emoji, something just saying like, hey, like this if you're alive. Just because, if you didn't already know, opioid use is really high lately, especially in Omaha and Nebraska. And it just gets real out here, and it's still kind of young, so it's still lonely time.
I just wanted to say, I just need to give a shout out to Jasmine if I can. Can we just put our hands together? Jasmine, go girl. I know you're not the one for the accolade, but I just want to say I'm proud of you. And I also want to say that I was able to go with the Black and Brown Legislative Day. What an opportunity, young professionals. What an opportunity. Year 2. There was a question you had on there. What do you see Omaha looking like in 3 to 5 years? When you guys doing what you're doing, I see it's going to be awesome. Stay encouraged, keep up the good work, and thank you.
Hashtag Jasmine for elected office.
So, right on. You heard it, Jasmine, you heard it there. They already talked to me about it.
So right along the lines of that, so our next event, and sorry I'm late, I was in class. Our next event for the Civic Committee is going to be a policy summit that we'll be doing on Friday the 13th in July. So if you are willing to get involved with that, I'm looking at all of you, and also everyone else in the room. Please see either one of us. Yes, I have your information, all of your information. So see you soon.
Awesome. Go ahead.
So the Urban League technically has a guild, which is where the 40 plus comes from. We welcome everyone if you would like to be a part of the Urban League YPs. However, we have to say that distinction because the guild is the 40 and up auxiliary for the Urban League.
But we all do work together to move towards our common goal of being the movement in Nebraska. So, all right.
We got one more. We don't keep you guys too long, so go ahead.
Okay, so DeJuan Hayes. I am working on a journalism project based in North Omaha called North Omaha Information Support Everyone, NOISE. So I'm in the process of recruiting photographers, videographers, content creators, illustrators, writers of all sorts to create a sustainable journalism network that supports people, like giving them news they can use by people they can trust. We are just getting started. We have our first meeting on Wednesday with our initial team. If you're at any means interested in contributing, writing anything, something that speaks to your heart, and you want to have something told about it, or you want support doing that research, reach out. So the only reason, we would need more people in this room because there needs to be information out there, and we can create that information from ourselves. And to support candidates and to make change happen, people need to know that it's happening. So any of the ways that we can work together to strengthen that communication flow, particularly in our Black and brown communities, is extremely important. So reach out to me. If you don't want to be involved, that's fine, but write something, share something, get the word out that we have a voice and we got to reach it. Thanks.
Awesome. So I think we should give our panelists another round of applause. We appreciate everybody coming out. If you have any other questions for the panelists, make sure you pull them aside, get information from them so you can do so. And with that, meeting's adjourned. Thanks, guys.